When it comes to the St. Louis Blues, there's a lot that they can actually learn from the Edmonton Oilers, and I have Nick that's going to tell me all about what the Edmonton Oilers have done to be successful.
Hey, this is Brayden Chen. Subscribe to Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to Locked On Blues and happy Monday, May 19th. Today is an important day for all of us for a multitude of reasons. Number one, we're going to get some perspective on the Edmonton Oilers and what they have done to gain success. I'm going to defend Defend Kyrou, which we know is going to be the hill that I will die on. And it's also been 2 years since I have been your host of Locked On Blues. So we're going to take a little look back down memory lane and talk about some of the biggest moments that the Blues have achieved and didn't achieve. But I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first order. Nick, hello. Welcome back to the show. You've been a familiar face with the community here in Locked On Blues. Nick not only does Locked On Oilers, but he does the Locked On NHL National Show on Thursdays alongside Hunter, who is actually on the show with me on Friday. So getting both of you on Locked On Blues. Hope you're doing well. So congratulations first and foremost. Conference finals again. Okay. Awesome. You know, whenever the VGK doesn't advance, I'm happy. So again, all of us on the Blues side of things, we're happy about that. But the reason I had you on, Nick, I was at the gym, and during my workout, I kept on thinking about one thing about the Edmonton Oilers, that they're an old team, okay? Not old in the sense that they've been around for a while, old in the sense that they have one of the oldest rosters in the NHL. And right now, when I'm looking at the Blues and I'm talking about things that they can do for next season, I bring up guys like a Ryan Suter, a Cam Fowler, some of these guys that are a little bit older, right? So I want to ask you, do you think it is attainable to have players on your team in their mid to late 30s, even 40s, and find success? Or do you need to have those guys be maybe with a star player like a Connor McDavid?
So I think there's layers to that question. The obvious one is the reason teams keep those types of players around is generally they're cheap. The Oilers have quite a few of those guys who are in their mid to late 30s who make close to the league minimum. And when you have guys who have the playoff experience, who want an opportunity, like you mentioned, to play alongside a Connor McDavid or a Leon Draisaitl, and they want an opportunity to stay in the show, they're more than willing. You think about some of the contracts guys have taken to stay with the Leafs over the years, what Jason Spezza did to stay there the 1 year, the contract Wayne Simmons took to go there for 1 or 2 years. That's the way you incorporate those types of players, is you can't feature them. They're not going to be the first hour of free agency on July 1st, but as an 11th or a 12th forward, a 5th or 6th defenseman, or a backup goalie, I definitely think there's value to be had there. I mean, that is one of the archetypes they talk about in the Moneyball book that the movie everyone has seen, but no one has actually read the book, talks about, is that age is one of those underdeveloped markets where just because a player's old doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be ineffective. It does mean you need to understand what they're good at to put them in a more specialized role. Like Corey Perry's only playing 12, 13 minutes a night at the most, but he's getting on the first power play as the net front guy. He's playing at 5-on-5 with Connor and Leon when they're together. So you can't expect him to play first line 18, 19 minutes a night. But if you have a vision to play, Ryan Suter as the sixth defenseman with a younger partner, I definitely think there's some merit in that. I think if you look at some of the fourth line centers who hang around for a long time, a Luke Glendening type who's just really good at faceoffs, I think there's value in that as a fourth line guy. But as a building block, no, you do need to have a certain baseline level of talent before you start scrapping around the bargain bin.
So one thing about the Oilers that's the most interesting thing to me, on the roster, they have 17 players that are 27 and older. And I kind of want to know your perspective. We've talked, obviously, a little bit too much about Broberg and Holloway. But when you're approaching free agency, right, because that's going to be soon. I know right now your mind, Nick, and as it should be, is on the playoffs and getting the Stanley Cup. But when you're thinking about free agency, with a team that has mostly older players, is there any specific guys that you're looking at in the market that could be a good fit? I know Mitch Marner right now, I know that he is above the age that I mentioned. However, he still has a lot of youth in his game, which in my opinion is being able to do all things, right? Special teams, offense, defense, all of that. But is there any other player maybe that you have in mind that would be a good fit for your team? And I ask this because for the Blues, selfishly, I have a couple players, but I want to know with a roster that's mostly older, how are you looking at maybe some of the available guys?
So the first thing I have to say is the Oilers kind of have a bang up track record in free agency. I don't know if most people recognize or remember this, but the first hour of free agency last year, they signed Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson to like a combined $5 million. And Arvidsson's going to be on the team next year. He signed a 2-year deal. And both of those guys were healthy scratches in game 5 against Vegas for Kasperi Kapanen and Vasily Podkolzin. Kapanen, who they claimed off of waivers, and Podkolzin, who was a salary dump to get cap compliant. So I think free agency is a double-edged sword. I often compare free agency to going to the grocery store hungry because everything starts to look good and you start to talk yourself into things. I think for the Oilers, they're going to be more inclined to be in the trade market to look for restricted free agents and players of that ilk, similar to what they did last summer, trading Ryan McLeod for Matthew Savoie, where they got $2 million off the books to get closer to cap compliancy, which they didn't ultimately get to till like the first week of September. So as far as the first day of free agency, I expect a backup goalie to be in the cards because I don't think Calvin Pickard will be back next year. He's old. He's got a lot of miles, and they need to upgrade the backup position, even though he has been pretty good for them this year. Otherwise, a good chunk of this team is locked in, for lack of a better word. And the other part of it is the extensions are going to start to kick in now. Leon's going to go to being the highest paid player in the NHL next year. And then the year after that, Bouchard likely is going to go up to $9 to $11 million per year. And then McDavid, not that long after that. So I don't think the Oilers will be particularly active for marquee pieces. For depth guys, yeah, they might need to replace Corey Perry. They might need to replace some of their guys in that ilk, the 9th, 10th, 11th forwards, maybe the 6th defenseman. But this team is pretty solidified as far as the next 12 months. After next summer will be more of an active, how can we retinker the roster? Because they have a lot more guys who are unrestricted free agents next summer.
Awesome. And then finally, I want to ask about Stuart Skinner. Obviously, 26 years old. He plays with a lot more maturity, so you wouldn't necessarily think that he's 26. But with the Blues, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, but we have Jordan Binnington, who I know that you know. I'm sure you guys love playing against Binnington. But when you have a staple, 1A, let's go call it, right? And again, Joel Hofer, they need to re-sign him. And kind of, a similar-ish situation, even though Hofer is in a one-day takeover. But do you build around the goalie? I kind of feel like I'm doing a little bit of football talk, right? Like about the quarterback. But that's
positional value. Yeah.
It is. And with a team, again, I feel like the Blues have somewhat of an older-ish roster. Not the oldest, but an older compared to some other teams in the league. Would you build around a guy like a Stuart Skinner? Or would you say, you know what? We need to build around McDavid and see what we can do to benefit him?
So that's really one of the efficiency conversations we have in hockey. And there are a lot of different ways to go about building a roster. You look at what teams like Vegas and, to lack of a better extent, the Rangers have done, the Leafs have done, where they put a lot of money in 3 or 4 guys, and then they try and scrap together the rest of the team. Vegas pulled Victor Olofsson and why am I drawing a blank on the other? Pavel Dorofeyev. They pulled those 2 guys off of the scrap heap, and Dorofeyev had 30 goals this year, and Olofsson had 40, 50 points. So there are multiple ways to go about it. I am still of the opinion the most valuable thing you can have is a superstar forward, because that superstar forward is always going to be underpaid relative to what they produce. Like, yes, Draisaitl is going to be the most expensive player in the NHL next year, but he's going to be worth more than that cap hit. But because of the way the market is set up, where wages have been depressed for the last few years because of COVID, they're not going to be paying him for as much as he's worth. And that's where your excess value comes in. I don't think there's a path to winning a Stanley Cup in today's NHL where your goalie is your best player. I just don't think that's the case. You can make an argument one of the best players. I think Vasilevsky, you would say, was one of the best players on that Tampa Bay team. But if you had to pick, if this was gym class and we line them up, you're going to take Kucherov before you take Vasilevsky. I think you would do the same thing with last year's Panthers team. You would take Barkov or Tkachuk before you would take Bob. And that's not a knock on Bob or Vasilevsky. But the value of the superstar forward is the most valuable. It's a very straightforward food chain. The superstar forward, the superstar defenseman, the superstar goalie. You see how the Jets have plateaued. You see how the Rangers have plateaued. You see how the Predators plateaued. UC Saros, one of the best goalies of the last 5-10 years. I don't think the Predators have won a playoff round with him as a starter.
I have to disagree on that, actually.
By all means.
So for me personally, and again, with my team having an incredible cup run, Jordan Binnington was our superstar. And
no, Petrangelo's the best player on that team, or Ryan O'Reilly.
Listen, Patty Maroon, goal against Dallas. I'm never going to forget it, but I'm just saying that there was a lot of guys that contributed, right? But Jordan Binnington, what he was able to do in the net was something special. And we look at the Jets, right? I know they've had injuries and I get it, but Connor Hellebuck was just not it. And I can go on and on. I look at Stuart Skinner, right? And maybe we can ignore the fact that one goal went in with 0.4 seconds left. Sorry, it makes me feel good.
It's fine. They won the series. It's fine.
They did. I'm like, I know.
It's funny. They won the series, so it's funny.
But I watch him play, Nick, and I'm going to be honest with you. That is a superstar to me. Now, the Oilers are a bit of a different team because they actually have these superstar type of players. You look at the Panthers. I'm a huge Matthew Tkachuk fan, obviously St. Louis native Matthew Tkachuk. One day, hopefully he'll play here. But again, I look at Bob, and I can't help but just have my attention drawn to the goalies. I'm a goalie person. Everyone that knows that about me knows that I love the goalie prospects. There's something about the guy that's in between the pipes that draws my attention on the ice. But I do believe that you do need to have an all-star goalie in order to win the cup. I really do believe that. And I'm going to die on that hill. And that was me giving you a compliment, by the way, about your Edmonton Oilers.
Oh, no, I know. We don't have 45 minutes to continue this conversation, but this is a positional value debate and what you prioritize. It's the same exact thing we argue about in football. It's the same thing we argue about in basketball. How much can you afford to pay one position or one position group, and how much does that impact the rest of your team? I think the argument against goaltending is the fact that Connor Hellebuck was the consensus best goalie in the world for 2 straight regular seasons, and then in 2 straight playoffs, he was the worst goalie in the playoffs. So I think when you marry those two thoughts together, you see how much variance goes into the position, even amongst the guys who are very good at the position. I mean, Hellebuck's going to win his 3rd Vezina. He's a first ballot future Hall of Famer. He'll likely be the goalie for Team USA at the Olympics next year.
Which shouldn't be.
That's debatable. It's track record.
I'm just saying.
If it were up to me and we were doing this tomorrow, yeah, I would pick Jake Ottinger too.
I would choose him any day over Connor Hellebuck.
I mean, Hellebuck, I think Hellebuck's thing is between the ears. I don't think it's a talent issue. It's very clear.
But that still matters.
It does. I agree with you. And that's the argument being against the goalie. I mean,
Stuart Skinner should have won Vezina this year. That's my opinion.
Stuart Skinner was like an 894 goalie this year. Stuart Skinner was arguably
I was being sarcastic, silly.
I mean,
the best goalie in the NHL is Jordan Binnington. No, I'm joking.
It's Connor Hellebuck. He's going to win his 2nd straight
regular season, yes.
Yeah.
Nick, before I let you go, and I'm sure Blues fans are going to be a little bit interested about this one. We have a Western Conference Finals between 2 teams that personally we can't stand. We have the Dallas Stars, who we absolutely hate. We have the Edmonton Oilers, and we would like Edmonton if it wasn't for people coming at us for Dylan Holloway not playing. It was a very weird situation that we've had to deal with as a fan base. Where was Dylan Holloway? Under the knife getting surgery. Point being, why should people root for Edmonton? Do you think Edmonton's going to beat Dallas? Just give me a quick 30-second summary of your pitch about the Oilers.
Why? It's the same thing as LeBron finally winning the title. The best player in the world who's got all the MVPs. He's going to win a gold medal at the Olympics next year. He gets to add a cup to the resume.
You're talking about Corey Perry getting another cup?
Corey Perry getting another cup is there. Look, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you the Oilers are a likable team. They employ people like Evander Kane, Corey Perry, Darnell Nurse, who play on that gray line of definitely between dirty and clean. Like, I'm not going to sell you on the Oilers are a likable team. I'm going to tell you McDavid's the best player in the world. He's been the best player in the world for 7 of the last 10 years. And this is the last thing he needs to basically complete everything there is to do in hockey. And then at that point, it's trying to see how high and how great the legacy can go. I think the Oilers definitely can win this series. The Stars have a better roster, just hat on hat. If you go person by person, the Stars have a better lineup, but the Oilers have McDavid and Draisaitl. And that was enough last year. And I'm inclined to believe that'll be enough again.
Awesome. Nick, I appreciate you. Nick and I, for all of those that are watching, we talk a lot of hockey all the time, and Nick is my go-to guy when it comes to certain things. So again, check him out on Locked On Oilers. Nick, plug your Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, your whatever social media.
On Twitter and Instagram, it's Nick Zararis. It's on the screen, Zararis. On TikTok, it's Nick Zararis Sports. Thanks for having me, Haley.
Always. Guys, coming up, we're going to be talking about me defending Jordan Kyrou. But first, Monarch Money. Have you ever checked your bank account and wonder where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you can just stop managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch Money, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and I get to save more. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Now, one thing I need to talk to you about, and this is something that bothered me. I made a video kind of grading all of the Blues' players, right? Before I lost my voice. That was awful, by the way. And one of the players that I mentioned that I gave a grade of an A to was, maybe it was an A+, was Jordan Kyrou. Now, I'm not talking playoffs. I was talking regular season. And for whatever reason, I feel like Jordan Kyrou always gets the short end of the stick. Yes, I can break down statistics, and I will be doing that 100%. But I will be defending Jordan Kyrou. I think that he gets a lot of unnecessary hate. I think that he is a good player. I have talked to many people that cover many NHL teams. I've spoken about specifically Jordan Kyrou, and every single person says how great of a player he is and how he isn't being utilized well enough on the Blues. And I do believe that. I think that Jordan Kyrou is one of those players that people just kind of pick apart because maybe he isn't as flashy. I don't know why he gets the hate that he gets, but I feel like I am this Jordan Kyrou defender. Offensively, I think he is very smart now. He needs to take better control of the pucks. Way too many turnovers that come out of Jordan Kyrou when he handles the puck. But at the same time, I feel like he, again, is just one of those players that I will defend until the end of time. And again, I want to know why you don't like him. Because for me, as I said, I can list all the reasons why I do like him. But at the end of the day, I feel like that doesn't change anyone's mind about him because people have like this really weird preconceived notion maybe about him not putting enough effort in, that he's sloppy with his puck control. But he does do a lot of good things. I mean, 30 plus goals in a single season for the past 3 seasons, mind you. Like I can, as I said, more than happy to break down statistics. I'm so happy to do that. But this is just kind of like a general brief overview of why I will defend him. I think that it's easy for us to always say Jordan Binnington is, the best goalie on the Blues, obviously over Joel Hofer, but like one of the best players on the Blues, I should say. Robert Thomas is, but then when it comes to even Boucher, I know Boucher hasn't been as productive as he usually is, but I don't understand like why it goes from like, this is a great player to the team to, oh, we need to get rid of this guy. The Blues would be worse without Jordan Kyrou, okay? Just for one moment, please, just think. do you think the Blues would be better, or do you think they would be worse without Jordan Kyrou? And if you're going to say, oh, well, they would be better without him, let me know why and who would you replace him with, realistically. Because personally, I think Jordan brings a lot to the team. And this is something that our GM, Doug Armstrong, literally said at his end of the season presser, that the team has guys like staples, like a Robert Thomas and a Jordan Kyrou. Please just think for one moment how the Blues would be without Jordan Kyrou, and then get back to me. So I want to take the next couple minutes instead of screaming into my camera about Jordan Kyrou, which I'm going to end up doing all off season, it seems like, to kind of reflect on the 2 years I have been doing this podcast. So it is really funny. So 2 years ago today is when I got hired to do the Locked On Blues podcast. And, it's funny, right? It's funny to me because I couldn't tell anybody that I got the job, right? There was some paperwork and some things I had to do, but today was the day, May 19th, where it became official. And for me personally, it was a really weird, not like weird as in bad, but it was a very like surreal moment because I've always been a Blues fan, right? And I'm like, wow, I get the opportunity to talk every single day about the team that I am actually a fan of. Because again, I have other lines of work, which you know about, which involve a team that I have not been a fan of, and it's just purely for a job. So again, I think I began my first episode, I want to say a little bit before we went Blues Day, obviously June 12th. And man, like it has been such a journey coming on this podcast and being able to interview players like a Braden Shen, Robert Thomas, Bitter, Kyrou, Tucker, like the list goes on and on. I thought I said Tucker into that, like neighbors, but like the point is I have been able to really do a lot. My coolest moment though was going to the draft last season, covering the Blues and talking to well, first off, the great social media team, by the way, that does all the Blues work. It was so nice to finally meet them because at practices, I don't always get to see them. So for me personally, that was cool, and like, even like all the beat reporters, it was nice finally being able to see them in person. Because it's funny, right? When I'm where I'm at right now, I don't get to always see all these guys. And then obviously my interview with Juracek, that's on YouTube, by the way. So you can check that out. But being able to talk to, I almost said David Juracek, Adam Juracek, his brother. Being able to talk to him was cool. 18th birthday, just got drafted, 16th overall. Pretty surreal moment being in the Sphere. But this podcast, most importantly, it's you, my everydayers that I get to talk to every single day about the team that I'm a fan of, that brings me joy. And I think that it's just something that's really special and very sentimental, right? We had a goal this season, and that was to go to the playoffs. And the Blues did achieve that. I still think they had the best Game 7 because that Game 7 last night was horrible. But the Blues still achieved their goal, and that is something that Doug Armstrong also said. The goal was achieved. And for me, doing this podcast, my goal was achieved. Being able to have Braden Shen do my intro, that was a goal that I had. And I feel like every year this podcast, we're just going to elevate higher and higher. We have so many cool guests lined up for the summer and so much more that I cannot wait to get into. But I guess I just wanted to come on here mostly and just thank you all. Seriously. Thank you, because you are the same people that allowed me to come on my YouTube and do a live stream of me crashing out when the Blues lost the Game 7 against the Jets. Like, we really have such a tight-knit group here in St. Louis, and it is very special. I know today's episode was really just kind of digging into having somewhat of an older roster and that mentality and kind of comparing it to Edmonton. But we have so much more planned throughout the week. But I like getting different perspectives because the Blues, I'm telling you, I do not think they're going to hold on to their 19th overall draft pick. I think that's going to be included in a package for a trade. So for me personally, my mind isn't really going towards the draft like I usually am. I will be having Russ Cohen on, who does all draft talk. He does such a great job for Sirius XM. NHL Sirius XM. And we're going to talk about some prospects, but not prospects in the first round, some later rounds, which we have. But I really do not think they're holding on to that 19th overall. So some names that you probably don't know about, I'm going to do my research, obviously, and figure that out because I just know a lot of the guys from the first couple of rounds. But we might be talking like sixth round, right? So it's important to at least know some names. And then we're going to be talking just to a bunch of people. Like, I cannot wait to tell you more about what we have planned for the summer here in Locked On Blues, but it will be good. I appreciate you all. You guys are the best because we are the best. And next season, we're going to win the cup. So, like always, how I end every single episode, let's go Blues.